Listen with your spirit and not just your eyes. Because at this exact second, while your breath moves in and out of your body and your heart quietly beats without your permission, your name is being spoken clearly, deliberately, and repeatedly in the throne room of heaven, not as poetry, not as symbolism, not as background noise, but as a living reality written into divine motion. For this moment was scheduled long before you ever learned how to doubt. Long before disappointment carved caution into your heart. Long before you learned how to survive by pretending you were strong. Because before you woke today, before light touched your room, before your phone vibrated, angels were already being repositioned. Assignments were already being updated. And a heavenly summons was already issued for you, specifically you. And something shifted violently in the unseen realm hours ago when a door that had resisted every prayer, every tear, every desperate cry, every quiet hope you buried just to survive finally cracked open, not politely but under pressure. The sound of it echoing through heaven like thunder, causing angels assigned to your destiny to stop mid-task and turn toward you. Because this was not chance, and you did not stumble into this moment. This moment tracked you down, found you where you were hiding, and met you where you are. And the stirring you feel in your chest right now, the tightness in your throat, the heat behind your eyes, the heaviness mixed with hope is not emotion alone. It is recognition. It is your spirit remembering what your mind has been trained to forget. And even now the enemy is panicking because he recognizes timing when he sees it. Whispering distractions, feeding hesitation, urging you to scroll, to delay, to dismiss. Because he knows that if you stay, if you receive, if you agree, something he worked years to delay will collapse in minutes. And heaven is watching your response. Not because God doubts you, but because agreement activates movement. And you have cried in silence more nights than you admit. Praying prayers that felt like they dissolved into air. Watching others pass you by while you stayed faithful in shadows, wondering if your voice mattered. If your endurance was wasted, if heaven even noticed, but every tear you hid was counted. Every prayer you whispered was recorded. Every moment you chose faith over bitterness was documented. And while you stood firm in the dark, a war was raging over your future, forces assigned to exhaust you, delay you, confuse you, and keep you from discovering who you truly are. Because they saw the plan written with your name on it. They feared the version of you that would emerge healed, favored, and unafraid. And they tried everything. People close to you, broken trust, repeated setbacks, internal battles. But their authority is expiring now. Chains are snapping. Resistance is dissolving. And heaven is announcing a season marked by completion, acceleration, and overflow. A multiplied favor designed to touch every fractured area of your life. And within days, you will see confirmation that this is real, tangible evidence that cannot be explained away. Because what is coming is not random provision but intentional restoration. Not survival but overflow. And your history of delay is about to become the evidence of divine timing. Because what felt like silence was preparation. What felt like rejection was protection. And what felt like loss was positioning. And heaven is declaring that what you endured without quitting has qualified you for what is now being released. And this is only the beginning of what you are stepping into. Understand this clearly now, because clarity is power. While you were being faithful, unseen resistance was working relentlessly to block what was legally yours. Strategies formed not to destroy you outright, but to wear you down slowly. To convince you that patience was pointless and obedience unrewarded. Yet even as opposition intensified, a verdict was being prepared in your favor. And that verdict is being executed now, because heaven does not forget labor done in faith. And God is not releasing something vague or symbolic, but precise, measurable, undeniable provision that will leave no room for doubt as to its source. Debts that have weighed on your spirit like chains are being addressed, not incrementally, but decisively. And streams of income you did not orchestrate are aligning. Connections you could not manufacture are being arranged. And what seemed financially impossible is being repositioned through favor rather than force. Because provision is not limited by your resources but governed by divine authority. And what has been misallocated is being redirected. What has been withheld is being released. And what was stuck is being mobilized. Yet this is not only about finances, because God restores holistically. Relationships strained by misunderstanding, distance, and spiritual interference are being healed. Hearts hardened by pain are softening. Conversations once avoided are becoming possible, and reconciliation long prayed for is approaching quietly but powerfully. While bodies worn down by stress, fear, and diagnosis are receiving renewal at a cellular level, strength replacing weakness, clarity replacing confusion, peace overriding anxiety, because the same power that raised Christ is active now, not waiting for permission from circumstances. And what you are receiving will not arrive barely sufficient but abundantly supplied, exceeding need and extending outward so that you become a source rather than a seeker, and generational patterns that followed your family like shadows are breaking here. Cycles of lack, addiction, emotional distance and despair losing their grip because you stood when others surrendered, and that decision altered bloodlines. Angels are stationed now, not temporarily, but strategically, guarding what is being built, sealing what is being released, and protecting what is unfolding. Because this season is not fragile, it is fortified. And everything you endured was preparation for sustainability, not collapse. And the light surrounding you now is not imagination, but alignment, a visible mark in the unseen realm that declares you untouchable in this moment. And the resistance you felt before was not proof of failure, but evidence of proximity. Because opposition intensifies closest to breakthrough. And now the resistance is reversing, not quietly, but publicly. Because justice is not revenge, but restoration. And what was meant to discredit you will elevate you. What was meant to block you will propel you. And what was meant to silence you will amplify your voice. And you will witness outcomes that leave no doubt that God defended you personally. And this season will not simply reward you, but reposition you. Now hear this carefully. Because activation requires response, and response determines manifestation. Heaven is issuing directives not to burden you, but to align you. Because movement follows obedience. And what you speak carries weight in realms you cannot see. Which is why agreement spoken aloud shifts atmosphere, mobilizes assistance, and accelerates outcomes. And releasing the old is not loss, but preparation. Because you cannot carry remnants of past pain into future promise without distortion. And forgiveness is not approval of harm, but freedom from its control. And the people being brought to mind now are not random. They are anchors, bridges, and confirmations in what comes next. Because destiny unfolds through connection as much as calling and attentiveness in the coming hours matters. Because divine communication often arrives disguised as ordinary opportunity, requiring discernment rather than spectacle. And sharing what you receive multiplies its effect. Because blessing is designed to flow through you, not terminate in you. And timing here is critical. Not because God is impatient, but because moments of heightened alignment must be seized, as hesitation can delay what readiness could accelerate. And testimonies you hear are not exaggerations, but previews, evidence of patterns repeating for those who respond decisively. Because the same hand that moved for others is moving now. And you are neither overlooked nor disqualified. And the blessing being released now is comprehensive, touching finances, health, relationships, peace, clarity, and purpose, extending beyond you into everyone connected to your obedience. Because obedience creates ripple effects that alter futures. And what is coming will validate every moment you chose faith when quitting felt easier. Because God does not waste endurance. And what appears sudden is often the result of prolonged unseen preparation. And you will recognize the shift not just externally but internally as fear loosens its grip. Confidence rises without arrogance, and peace anchors you even before evidence appears. Because faith is not denial of reality but alignment with truth. And the truth now is that your season has changed. Receive this final declaration not as hopeful language but as authoritative release. Because heaven is concluding one chapter and initiating another. And what is now being spoken over you carries permanence. Favor following you rather than being chased. Doors opening without strain. Provision meeting you without anxiety. Protection surrounding you without fear. Wisdom guiding you without confusion. And joy returning without apology. And what unfolds next will confirm that this moment was real, that your response mattered, and that alignment produces acceleration. And you will see evidence quickly. Not because you demanded it, but because God confirms His word. And the best confirmation will not just be what changes around you, but who you become within it. Steadier, clearer, stronger, generous, unafraid, and secure. Because you are not stepping into temporary relief, but sustained transformation. And what is being built now will last. And heaven stands behind what it initiates. Angels guard what God ordains, and favor rests where obedience aligns. And you will not return to the version of yourself that doubted your worth or questioned your calling. Because clarity has replaced confusion and authority has replaced fear. And this moment will be remembered as the turning point, not because everything changed instantly, but because everything began to move. And movement creates momentum. And momentum creates manifestation. And what you receive now is not the end, but the beginning of a sequence that will unfold with precision, purpose, and power. Because this was your divine appointment. And you showed up, and heaven responded, and what comes next will speak for itself. Stay with me, and do not let your attention drift. Because what is unfolding now is not a repetition of what you have already heard, but an expansion of it. A deepening, a sealing, a stretching of what heaven has already begun to activate in your life. For there are layers to this moment that your mind has not yet fully grasped. And God is patient enough to unfold them one by one so your spirit can carry the weight of what is coming without breaking under it. Because the truth is this. If everything you are about to step into had arrived years ago, it would have crushed you rather than crowned you. And that is why the delay was not denial but divine restraint. Because God does not just bless. He prepares vessels that can sustain the blessing without losing themselves in it. And you were being shaped in hidden places, trained in endurance, refined through disappointment, and strengthened through seasons where applause was absent and answers were delayed. Because those seasons taught you how to hear God without confirmation, how to trust without evidence, how to obey without applause, and how to keep your heart soft while everything around you hardened. And that is why heaven trusts you now. That is why responsibility is being handed to you along with reward. Because what is coming is not just for your comfort but for your assignment, not just for your relief but for your influence, not just for your survival but for your stewardship. And understand this clearly. The enemy never fights empty people. He never assigns resistance to meaningless lives. He never invests energy into stopping something insignificant. The intensity of the opposition you faced was proportional to the magnitude of the destiny attached to you. And that is why the attacks felt personal, repetitive, strategic, and exhausting. Because they were. And yet here you are still standing. Still believing even when belief felt foolish. Still hoping even when hope hurt. Still praying even when silence screamed back at you. And that alone disqualified every accusation the enemy tried to raise against you. Because endurance is evidence, faithfulness is proof, and persistence is testimony. And now the season is shifting not gradually but decisively. Because heaven has determined that you are ready. Ready to handle open doors without arrogance. Ready to receive provision without fear. Ready to walk in authority without insecurity. Ready to be seen without losing humility. Ready to lead without losing compassion. And ready to prosper without forgetting where you came from. Because humility preserved you when pride would have destroyed you. And integrity protected you when shortcuts would have cost you everything. And obedience aligned you when rebellion would have delayed you even further. And now heaven is entrusting you with momentum. And momentum is dangerous if mishandled, because momentum amplifies whatever foundation it is built upon. And yours is built on faith, tears, endurance, obedience, and surrender. Which means the acceleration coming will not distort you, but elevate you, not inflate you, but establish you. And what you are stepping into will feel unfamiliar at first, because struggle became familiar. And peace feels strange when you have lived in survival mode for too long. But do not sabotage what God is stabilizing. Do not question what heaven has confirmed. Do not retreat just because ease feels undeserved. Because rest is not a reward for perfection, but a gift for trust. And you are allowed to receive without guilt. You are allowed to enjoy without fear. You are allowed to celebrate without waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because this season is not fragile. It is fortified. It is not temporary. It is intentional. And the reason God is emphasizing urgency is not to pressure you but to protect you from hesitation. Because hesitation is the last tool the enemy has when authority has been stripped away. And procrastination is disguised disobedience when timing matters. And timing matters now because alignment is high and resistance is low. And heaven has opened a window where movement is accelerated, where obedience produces rapid results, where faith ignites visible change. And when this window is open, those who act see transformation faster than those who analyze. Because faith moves faster than logic. And obedience outruns understanding. And what you are being asked to do now is not complicated but committed, not dramatic but decisive, not mystical but practical. Because God often confirms spiritual shifts through natural steps, through conversations, decisions, releases, and movements that seem ordinary but carry extraordinary impact. And the clearing of your space is symbolic and practical. Because clutter carries memory, and memory anchors emotion. And emotion can tether you to seasons God has already closed. And releasing old items, old messages, old reminders is not superstition. It is alignment, because you are telling your environment that your future is no longer negotiating with your past. And the names that surfaced in your spirit were not accidental. Because destiny is relational and forgiveness is often the final key that unlocks favor. Not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve freedom. And freedom creates capacity. And capacity creates increase. And increase demands maturity. And maturity is what you now carry. And this is why heaven is emphasizing expectancy. Because expectancy sharpens discernment. And discernment helps you recognize opportunity when it arrives quietly. And not every miracle announces itself with thunder. Some arrive as emails, conversations, invitations, delays that redirect you, closed doors that protect you, and peace that settles before provision appears. And when you recognize these moments as divine rather than random, you respond differently. You move confidently instead of cautiously. You speak boldly instead of shrinking back. You say yes, where fear once said, wait, and that is how momentum builds. Step after step, obedience after obedience, alignment after alignment, and soon what felt like coincidence stacks into confirmation. And what felt like hope becomes evidence, and what felt like faith becomes testimony. And understand this, the testimonies you heard were not shared to impress you, but to instruct you. Because patterns reveal principles. And the principle here is obedience activates acceleration. Agreement invites intervention, and sharing multiplies movement, because blessings stagnate when hoarded but flow when released. And God never blesses you just for you. He blesses you to position you as a conduit. And that is why generosity is being emphasized. Not because God needs your resources, but because generosity keeps your heart aligned when increase arrives. An increase is arriving. Not in a way that overwhelms you, but in a way that stretches you, requiring wisdom, discipline, and discernment. And you will grow into this next level rather than being thrown into it